Today is Monday, January 15th. We'll update you about extreme coast-to-coast winter weather, who's most impacted, and how long it's expected to stick around. Also, the top Republican presidential candidates are making their final pitches to Iowa voters, what you need to know about today's caucuses. Plus, how Americans are remembering a civil rights icon, what FDA scientists decided about marijuana, and what to expect from tonight's Emmy Awards. Those stories and more news to know next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Today, most Americans are waking up to especially chilly weather. Specifically, about 80% of the U.S. is seeing below freezing temperatures, and more than 140 daily cold records could be broken today and tomorrow, all the way from Oregon to Mississippi. On top of that, much of the U.S. is dealing with strong winds that are going to make it feel much colder than it is. Like wind chills of 30 degrees below zero are expected from the northern Rockies to parts of Kansas and Iowa. And snow is expected from Oklahoma to Virginia over parts of the Rockies and near the Great Lakes. The NFL even had to postpone the playoff game between the Buffalo Bills and Pittsburgh Steelers because of whiteout conditions. Meanwhile, people in Texas are being told to conserve electricity since the state has an increasingly vulnerable power grid. And anyone traveling today is being asked to double-check the flight schedule or road conditions before heading out. This storm is expected to stick around for a couple of days. The National Weather Service expects it to clear the south by Wednesday and start moving into the northeast. So stay tuned. It is the first official contest of the 2024 presidential election. The Iowa caucuses are happening today. And with that, voters are going to be bearing sub-zero wind chills to sit in school gyms, churches, and community centers and debate who they want to be the next president. As a reminder, both presidential primaries and caucuses have the same purpose to select the top Democrat and top Republican to show up on the ballot in November. But while a primary is a lot like voting in a general election, a caucus is run by the political party and feels more like a town hall. This time around, it's basically a formality for Democrats. In fact, the Iowa Democratic Party is mostly planning to focus on administrative business. Democrats will choose who they want for president by mail and wait to release the results until early March. But Republicans are expecting a big turnout. In the latest poll, former President Trump kept a pretty wide lead, as he has in the other polls so far this election season. Still, Trump's Republican rivals are hoping to pull off an upset, which actually is not unheard of in Iowa. So, of course, the candidates have been spending a lot of time and money in Iowa. There have been rallies, town halls, meet and greets, and a whole lot of ads right up until the last minute. Just yesterday, former President Trump made his final plea to his supporters, saying it's important for them to show up no matter what. He explained that it's up to voters to, quote, score the ultimate victory over all of the liars, cheaters, thugs, perverts, frauds, crooks, freaks, creeps, and other quite nice people. At Nikki Haley's rally, she told Republicans it was time for a, quote, new generational leader that leaves the negativity and baggage behind. And Ron DeSantis said on ABC News that he's, quote, running for your issues and your family issues, and said Trump is only running for himself. Results from today's Republican caucuses will be announced as soon as the tallies are complete, likely by tonight. The U.S. is still involved in a tense back and forth with Iranian-backed militants in Yemen. Just last night, the American military says it shot down a missile fired at a U.S. Navy destroyer from a Houthi-controlled area of Yemen. No injuries or damage were reported. But American troops still have their guards up, since it shows the Houthi militants are not giving up, even after last week's retaliatory strikes. By the way, the U.S. still says the conflict in the Red Sea and the strikes in Yemen are separate from the war in Gaza. But the Houthis have declared their actions to be in solidarity with Hamas and the people of Gaza, and they see the U.S. as joining in the Gaza war on the side of Israel. Speaking of which, this weekend marked 100 days since Hamas launched a terrorist attack inside Israel. And that means it's now been 100 days since Israel launched an all-out war against Hamas, with no end in sight. Israeli leaders say their attacks have severely weakened Hamas already, and they plan to keep them up until Hamas is destroyed. But unfortunately, the death and destruction goes beyond the terror group. So over the weekend, protests erupted all over the world, calling for an end to the war and for the return of hostages. But at this point, the future of Gaza is still up in the air. Well, some of the most powerful leaders of business and politics are getting together this week in the Swiss Alps. It's time for the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. The idea is for the public and private sectors to brainstorm solutions to the world's problems. So activists are also there to try to influence the thousands of rich, powerful people who are attending. Even before the forum started, protesters gathered to demand action on climate change, among other things. Already, climate change was on the agenda, along with wars in Gaza and Ukraine, trade disruptions in the Red Sea, a weak global economy, and misinformation in a major election year. On top of the hundreds of public sessions, speeches, and other official talks, the World Economic Forum is also known for plenty of secret backroom deal-making at upscale hotels, dinners, and parties. It all starts today and runs through Friday. Much more news is still ahead, but first, support for today's episode comes from AG1. Taking care of your health is not always easy, but it should at least be simple. That's why for almost a year now, I've been drinking AG1 every day. It's just one scoop mixed in water once a day, every day, and it makes me feel nourished. That's because each serving of AG1 delivers my daily dose of vitamins, minerals, pre- and probiotics, and more. It's a powerful, healthy habit that's also powerfully simple. I like to drink AG1 first thing in the morning, which is recommended for optimal nutrient absorption. If I'm running short on time and can't mix my AG1 before heading out, I'll grab a travel pack. Each is an individual serving of AG1 that's easy to mix on the go, helping ensure I get my daily nutrients no matter what. If there's one product I had to recommend to elevate your health, it's AG1, and that's why I've partnered with them for a while now. So if you want to take ownership of your health, start with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/newsworthy. That's drinkag1.com/newsworthy. Check it out. Okay, now back to the news. Today, the U.S. is honoring the legacy of an American icon. It's Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Of course, King was one of the most prominent civil rights leaders, known for his nonviolent fight for equal rights for Black Americans. And every January, we find ways to celebrate him. There are marches and parades planned in several cities today, though some have been postponed because of weather. Civil rights museums are also expecting lots of visitors. And like usual, Americans are encouraged to give back. In the 1990s, Congress designated MLK Day a day of service. So even though you may have the day off work or school, it's still meant to be a day on. People are encouraged to donate to a good cause and/or volunteer. And there are thousands of service projects planned all around the U.S. To find one near you, we've posted a link in today's episode notes. Oh, and a quick reminder that since MLK Day is a federal holiday, government offices, including the post office and libraries, are closed, along with most banks and the stock market. Federal scientists are now recommending the government ease up on its marijuana restrictions. The Department of Health and Human Services released an extensive scientific review over the weekend. It says marijuana is neither as risky nor as prone to abuse as other tightly controlled substances like heroin. It also says marijuana actually has some potential medical benefits, like for the treatment of pain or nausea. So it says it should be removed from the nation's most restrictive category of drugs. They're recommending the DEA make marijuana a Schedule III drug instead, alongside the likes of ketamine and testosterone that are available by prescription. Though the scientists did make it clear marijuana is not totally safe, much like other Schedule III drugs, that even though people don't develop a physical dependence, some do still develop a psychological dependence. Plus, they say their analysis is not meant to suggest they had looked into the safety and effectiveness of marijuana enough to actually support FDA approval, just reclassification for now. That would eliminate restrictions on cannabis research, and it would mean the cannabis industry would face fewer hurdles, like when it comes to banking services and taxes. The recommendations are now being considered by the DEA, which is expected to formally announce its decision within months. Check your pantries. Even more popular cereal, oatmeal, and granola bars are being recalled. Quaker Oats added more products to its recall that we first told you about last month. They include more kinds of chewy granola bars, Gatorade protein bars, certain varieties of Captain Crunch, Quaker oatmeal squares, Munchies snack mix, and more. They were sold in all 50 states, and the problem is they could be contaminated with salmonella. Though so far, no one has been reported sick from the Quaker Oats recall. If you do have any of the affected products, though, Quaker says just throw them away, or you can also go to the brand's website to request a refund. OpenAI has opened up its highly anticipated GPT Store, and it didn't take long before it became fully stocked with options. Remember, the store offers customized versions of ChatGPT. Among those that came out in just the first few days, ones that specialize in tutoring, coding, recipes, designs, and book recommendations. Also a fitness trainer, music theory instructor, coloring book picture generator, haiku writer, and laundry buddy washing label decoder. And then there are more controversial ones. If you search girlfriend on the new GPT Store, several different romantic companion bots will pop up, even though they're technically not allowed. And a few different news outlets have pointed them out as an example of how hard it could be to regulate GPTs. So far, no comment from OpenAI. For now, the GPT Store is only available to users on paid ChatGPT plans. And in the next few months, the company says it plans to add a way for GPT creators to make money from them, too. The biggest night in television is upon us. We're talking about the 75th Primetime Emmy Awards. It was actually supposed to happen back in September, but got postponed to tonight because of Hollywood strikes. Well, the Emmy says it's going to be worth the wait. It will include reunions and recreations of classic moments from a dozen beloved shows. For example, Game of Thrones, I Love Lucy, Cheers, Grey's Anatomy, All in the Family, Martin, and many more. Actor and comedian Anthony Anderson is hosting. And as you might have guessed, Succession is the frontrunner, up for 27 nominations, more than any other show. You can watch the Emmy Awards tonight on Fox or tomorrow on Hulu. That's it for the main news, so now it's time for Money Monday, when we talk about one interesting money-related news story. But first, this episode is sponsored by ZocDoc. We all know there are things in life we have to compromise on. Maybe it's choosing the grocery store that never has all the items you want, but it's closer and more convenient. But one thing I don't think we should compromise on is our health. So don't go back to that one doctor who doesn't make you feel heard or is never available or doesn't always take your insurance. Instead, check out ZocDoc. You can find and book doctors and check out verified reviews from real patients, helping you to find doctors who will make you feel comfortable and prioritize your health just like you do. I love that you can search by location, availability, insurance, and specialty, so you can find exactly the right doctor with ZocDoc. If you're not familiar, ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare highly rated in-network doctors near you and instantly book appointments with them online. Yeah, once you find the doc you want, you can book with them immediately. I always check out ZocDoc when I need a new doctor. So go to ZocDoc.com/newsworthy and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then find and book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc, ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to Money Monday. Once again, House and Senate leaders have reached a spending agreement to keep the government running for a little while longer. Congress plans to vote on a bill this week to temporarily extend funding at current levels until March. The idea is to give lawmakers time to pass new bills to fund the government through September. Congressional leaders say they've already agreed to the long-term bills too, but it takes time to draft that legislation and for it to pass both chambers. So the continuing resolution will give them some wiggle room. Still, not everyone is in favor of this solution. Some of the most conservative Republicans are in favor of a shutdown to get leverage for major changes at the southern border or significant spending cuts elsewhere. But Congress should still have enough votes for more moderate Republicans and Democrats to get the temporary measure passed. The first vote is planned for tomorrow, so we'll keep you updated. All right, thank you so much for listening today and every day. We'll be back with more news to know tomorrow. For now, have a great day.